Hey! So, if you're watching this on the replay, first off, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Second off, just a little reminder, if you don't have notifications turned on for my channel, definitely do that because that's the way to make sure that you are here when I go live. So if you want to be here live when this happens, be able to chat with me and be able to chat with everyone else, just click that little bell next to the subscribe button and then you'll get notifications when I'm here live chatting with you and notifications for my other videos. So if that's something you would like, then you should definitely do that. I'm going to be hanging out here for a little bit, just waiting for people to get their notifications and come in, and we're going to be just hanging out and having a late dinner. So if you're watching the replay, you know, feel free to skip ahead if you want, but this is kind of a casual hangout anyways, so I hope that you'll enjoy it and hopefully you can be here live with us. So I see there are a few people coming in, so when you get here, say hello, say hi, maybe tell me where you're watching from or how your day has been or something like that. I'd like to hear about what's going on in your part of the world. Kind of Vegan says, I'm here. Hi, yay, I'm glad you made it. And we're going to be eating dinner. I'm having a late dinner. And we'll get into why that is here in a second once some people get here. Jenna99 says, hello, hi, I'm glad you're here. Hexrex said they'd rather just sit here than comment. Let's see, Jordan Parker says, hi, hello, cooking dinner while I watch. Awesome, okay, so it's not late for everyone who's watching right now. Sarah Peck says, hi, Sarah. Kind of Vegan says, California, thinking about dinner soon. And Joshua Melman says, hey, Sarah, it's been a while. Yes, it has been a little while. I don't know if you mean that you've been here on the live, it's been a little while since you've been here on a live stream or a little while since I've posted. I have been a little bit slacking on the videos. It's been a week since I posted a video. So I thought I'd come on here live. Well, we'll talk about what we're doing, what we're eating, and then we can get into chatting about other stuff. So first off, I went to the gym, and I came back and took a shower and hopped right on to chat with you guys. So what ended up happening is Josh says, it's been a while since I've been on the live stream. I don't know if you like to be called Josh or not, Joshua. You can let me know. I might remember. I'll try to remember. So what ended up happening was I was going to actually eat dinner before I went to the gym tonight, but I mistimed the cooking a little bit. It wasn't like I was running out of the house, but it was kind of like at the point where like, I'm not really gonna have time to eat and for it to digest and me not to feel sick while I'm at the gym, because I had to leave for the gym about 15 minutes after I finished cooking and I still had to change and stuff. So I was like, I guess I'm just gonna go and then I'll come back and have a late dinner when I get back. So that's what we're doing. I came home, I took a shower, so that's why I have wet hair and everything. My face might be a little red from the shower and from working out. But yeah, so we're gonna have dinner. And you guys are very talkative tonight, which I love. Josh says, Josh is good. Jenna99 says, I'm winding down before bed, 9 p.m. in Montreal. Okay, that is what time it is here. Yeah, it's almost 9 here as well, so we're in the same time zone. Kind of Vegan says, I had ribeye for lunch. Sounds yummy. Very nice. Okay, so let's talk about what I'm eating for dinner. And for those of you who are making dinner, I would love to hear what you're working on, or maybe if you've already had dinner, or maybe you're eating breakfast, because y'all are all over the place. So we have stir fry tonight. I'll try to show you without it falling out of the bowl. So what I put in here, you can't quite see everything, but like we've got some shrimp in there, we've got rice noodles, you can see there's cilantro on top, I've got some kimchi over here, I put a lot of sriracha on it. We also have, what else is in here? Some hot peppers from the garden, those little yellow ones, they're called lemon drop, if you've seen some of my garden videos. I have a bunch of those in here. We have some bok choy in here. What else is in here? Oh, some of the Jimmy Nardello sweet peppers. I've got those in here. Oh, I'm dropping cilantro on the floor. Those are red, so let's see if I can't find one right now. Oh, and there's also, there's one. Some snow peas in here too. So I think that's everything. And then of course onion and garlic and ginger and all that sort of thing. So now that we've gone through what's in here, I'm gonna mix it up a little bit. And then we can eat and chat. All right, let's see what you guys are having. Josh says, yeah, late here as well, getting ready for good sleeps. Jordan Parker says, butternut squash and sage risotto. Ooh, yum. And what do you think of HelloFresh? Because that's what we're doing. Oh, I mean, I haven't tried HelloFresh or any of the, like, food subscription type things personally. I know some people really like them. I've had clients that have used them before, like one-on-one nutrition clients, and I think they're fine. I mean, it's a good way if, one, you don't have a lot of time, or if you don't feel super comfortable in the kitchen. I think it's great because they give you really nice recipes and everything's kind of there and they walk you through it. At least my understanding is it seems like, it makes it a little bit easier if you're new to cooking. The only thing is the cost, right? It's more expensive than if you just bought the stuff yourself. So that's a downside to it. And then also, it can help with food waste if you are someone who buys like one thing for one recipe and doesn't use it all and then you kind of throw it out. But, it also, you're getting everything kind of prepackaged. There's the packaging, so that's not great, and the shipping and all that. So, it depends on what you want to do, but I think they can be really nice, at least from what I've seen, and the food looks like it tastes really good, and the people that I've talked to personally have used it have said that the food tastes good. So if you're digging it, I think that's awesome, and that meal sounds delicious. Okay, I'm gonna actually eat something because if I just keep talking, then my food's gonna get cold and I'm never gonna eat dinner. There's also carrots in here. That's what I forgot. It turned out pretty good. Jason already had his while I was at the gym. He was like, do you want me to wait? And I was like, no, it's not really necessary. The food's hot now, and I'm going to be probably eating on the live stream anyways. So unless you want to come on the live stream, you're going to be eating by yourself regardless, so just go ahead. So that's what he did. I should have got a napkin. Let me do that before I make a fool of myself. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay, I'm back. Kind of Vegan says my cilantro is doing okay. Need more plants. Yeah, I have never grown cilantro, and it should be easy enough, and I was actually planning on doing it this year. I just haven't gotten into it. I've done the basil. I think it's because the cilantro is sensitive to the heat. So it's kind of like a spring-fall plant here in Virginia. And I had plans to do it in a container this year. And then I didn't. I always have plans. I never do everything I plan to do. But if I just make the plans really big, then, I'll do more. You know what I mean? I just plan more than what I'll actually do, and then I still end up doing a lot, if that makes sense. Sarah Peck says, pesto pasta with garlic bread and salad. That sounds delicious. I was thinking here recently that I would like to have some pesto, so I need to go out there and get some of the basil that's out there and use some of it for that. Especially because we're not going to have much longer for a lot of those plants here in Virginia because it's starting to get cold. Jason said that we have a frost warning tonight, which I didn't know anything about. He said he got a notification for it. I did not. And I was not able to get out there in the daylight and do stuff. So hopefully, I just gone out there and harvested yesterday. So anything that's ripe is picked. But, I'd like to strip the pepper plants, but I'm not going out there in the dark with a flashlight. We've done that before. It's not fun. So hopefully it doesn't freeze tonight. And I can get some of those unripe peppers and things and at least bring them in the house and let them hang out here. Kind of Being says, how much should you pay for butternut squash or acorn squash? I can't think off the top of my head, and obviously it depends on the size. But winter squash is fairly cheap, especially because it keeps so well. So, I mean, if you buy a butternut squash, it can last in your house forever. Winter vegetables are like that, which is nice because in the world before refrigeration, we needed things that could last a long time in the winter. Josh asked, does Jason spell his name like that? And like that is with an E instead of an O. Yes, he does. Jenna99 says, it's already feeling like winter here in Montreal. Yeah, here, we had some warm days into the beginning of October, like 97 degrees Fahrenheit, which I don't know what that is in Celsius, but that's hot. if you don't use Fahrenheit. And then this, I don't know, last week, it kind of just snapped. And now it's been getting cold. And I mean, during the days, like yesterday, I think it got up to like the upper 60s. Today, it didn't get, it was like the upper 50s, I want to say. And then it's been getting chilly at night. We haven't turned on the heat yet, but it does get kind of cold at night. And we usually get our first frost. I'm in zone 7 as far as hardiness zones go. We usually get our first frost around the end of October. So getting into this time is usually when it happens. Josh asks, what was in your stuffed French toast meal that you did? What was in there? I mean, of course you can watch the live stream if you want to see, or maybe you have and you want a condensed version. But if you are not familiar, I'll kind of catch you up to speed. The first Thursday of every month, I do a live cook with me here on the channel, and for this month's cook with me, Jason was actually in charge and I was his helper, and he decided to make stuffed French toast. So in there, we did peach stuffed French toast because we had peaches. So we did cream cheese, there was some peach jam in there. I think that's what was in the filling. And then as far as the like custard stuff, we used challah bread, and then there was milk and eggs and cinnamon, vanilla extract. I think that was it. And then we cooked it in the pan in butter, and then topped it with maple syrup and peaches and slivered almonds. I think that's everything. Josh says, my brother is Jason with an O. Okay, yeah, I feel like Jason is I don't want to, it's not like my name Sarah, which is super common, especially in my age group. So it was a very popular name at the time, and there are a lot of people my age named Sarah. But Jason seems to be kind of a semi-popular name for that time period, but not like the most popular. Jenin says it's been around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how cold it's been getting here at night. We haven't had a freeze yet, but it's been getting pretty chilly. Kind of Vegan says stays above 10 Celsius through winter. Expect to grow all winter. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like with garden stuff, it depends so much on where you are. Someone, I got a comment here recently on a garden video. Someone in Louisiana, and they were asking me how do they know like what their zone is. I was, telling them this is how you can look it up. But, if you have a garden, you're watching gardening channels. I mean, I like watching people from all over because I find it interesting, but I think it's super helpful to find someone who's in your zone or close to your zone to watch, because then you kind of get a feel for when to do things. And also, like, I found a guy who's in my zone, and it's interesting because he's going through the exact same things I'm going through when I'm going through it. So even though I kind of already know from everything I'm growing kind of what to do and when to do it, it's still cool throughout the growing season to see like someone in the same situation, like, oh, this is going on with their plants, this is also going on with my plants. Oh, Josh says didn't catch the live stream. Yeah, the replay should be up on the channel if you want to watch it, but that's what we put in it. It's just kind of a basic stuffed French toast recipe. Oh, that turned out really good. Jordan Parker asks, how long have you been married? We have been married for, I guess, almost 5.5 years. Yeah, about 5.5. Jenin says, seeing you and Jason together remind me of me and my girlfriend. Oh, that's cute. Kind of Vegan says, my cherry tomato plant took over the balcony. What tomato varieties are smaller? Oh, you mean like grow smaller? Well, I think there are some dwarf varieties that are... So when I went to the Heritage Harvest Festival, the guy who wrote the book Epic Tomatoes was there, and he was talking about it. I guess he has a dwarf tomato project going on where he is trying to develop some dwarf varieties. So if you don't know, as far as growing tomatoes, there's two main types, determinate and indeterminate. So determinate tomatoes grow shorter. They kind of have a set height that they grow to and then they stop. And then they kind of put all their fruit on at once, and then once all that fruit is ripe, then the plant's done for. So they're nice if you don't have a lot of space. Sometimes they're also called like patio tomatoes or container tomatoes or something like that because they don't take up as much space. So they're good if you don't have as much space, or if you want all your fruit at the same time for like making salsas or canning or things like that. Or making, I don't know, tomato paste or something. Indeterminate varieties just grow and grow and grow and grow, and they just steadily kind of produce fruit all season. So you'll have fruit all different stages, and it's kind of always going, and they just keep going and going and getting bigger and bigger until you either pull them out or you get a freeze and it kills the plant, or something else kills the plant. So he's been developing, Craig LeHoulier has been developing these dwarf varieties that are indeterminate, but they don't grow as tall. So it's kind of, so you get kind of the best of both worlds. So I don't know if there are a lot of dwarf varieties on the market, but if you can get hooked up with him, he's like trying to develop these things. So he wants testers. So if you want to be a tester, you can get in touch with him, and he'll send you seeds and stuff as he's trying to develop these varieties. So when you're looking at tomato plants or in the store, or if you're looking at seeds in the catalog, it should say whether it's determinate or indeterminate as far as size goes, if you want to know that. Josh asks, can you do gardening, like grow things without a garden, like on a windowsill? Absolutely. Anyone can grow something, no matter what your situation is. So you can grow herbs on your windowsill. If you have a little bit bigger space, you could, grow some other plants. If you have a balcony, you can do tomatoes or a pepper plant or something like that. There's a lot of things that you can do even in a small space. If you look into container gardening or, windowsill gardening or stuff like that, you can find things you can do. And I think herbs are really worth it because they are super easy to grow. They don't take up a ton of space. You can do them in a windowsill or on a countertop. But they also, so they're simple, and you can do it without a lot of space, and it's also really impactful. Fresh herbs add a ton of flavor to your food, so it has a lot of impact that way. But also, fresh herbs in the store can be really pricey, and also a lot of times you can't use them all. So you get some, and then half of it ends up going bad, and you have to put it in the compost or throw it away or whatever. So when you have a fresh plant and you're just growing it, you don't have that waste factor, and it's going to taste really good, and it's going to be cheaper because you're not throwing stuff away, and the plant can just keep giving you more and more and more. I think that stir fry turned out pretty good. Kind of Vegan says, that makes sense. Thanks. We'll try determinate variety or dwarf variety. Good. I'm glad that was helpful. And also Kind of Vegan says, I grow hydroponically in a condo. So yeah, if you depending on your motivation and how interested you are in gardening and how much time you want to put into it, you can absolutely do it. Jenna99 says, my aunt has a table for growing plants inside during the winter, with the lights set up. Cool, yeah. We have a seed rack that we built that I use for starting plants, because here in Virginia, you have to start your peppers and tomatoes indoors in most places in the U.S., aside from really warm places. You have to start them indoors because it's just not hot enough here soon enough to start them outside and then for them to have time to grow and to get the most out of your harvest. I mean, you could get something probably, but if you want to maximize, you start them inside. And so I built a grow rack for that, and it works pretty well. Josh says, buy seeds from a farmer's market. I don't typically see seeds at the farmer's market. I do have a seed haul video from this season on my channel, so if you poke around in like my gardening playlist or if you just search on the channel, you'll be able to find it. I get my seeds from catalogs. You can also find seeds in the store, so sometimes, you know, they'll have them at Walmart, they'll have them at Lowe's, Home Depot, you know, kind of like the hardware supply stores usually have them. If any store that has a gardening section like Walmart or something, you can find seeds there. If you want more selection and more varieties to choose from, then you can get seed catalogs. Most companies will send them to you for free. You just go on their website and sign up, and then they'll send it to you when the time comes. Usually you start getting them like December time. And then you're going to have a lot more selection. You can flip through and see a lot of different things, which is nice. And also if you have like a local garden center or a local hardware store, a lot of times they carry seeds, especially the garden center, they'll carry seeds too. As far as catalogs that I personally get, I get the Seed Savers Exchange catalog. I get the Baker's Creek Heirloom Seeds catalog. And this year I started getting the, why am I blanking on the name? Southern Exposure Seed Exchange. They're actually based in Virginia, which is really cool because, one, they're a Virginia company, so I kind of like supporting them, but also they have some varieties that are good for this area. Or sometimes there will be comments in the catalog like, in our garden this does really well, and that helps me know because they're, you know, it's not like they're in my backyard, but they're a lot closer than a seed catalog in another state or something. It's kind of helpful to see those notes, to see, oh, they grow this and it does really well for them, then maybe there's a chance it'll do well for me. Because something I have noticed, sometimes I'll get a variety from a catalog and people like online are like, oh, this grows amazing, this is the best thing ever. And then some people are like, oh, this was a total dud, it was awful. And if you start to go through those, you kind of see, oh, it seems like people in this part of the country have good luck with this. Other people don't. I think a good example of that are the Brad Gates Wild Boar Farms. He does a lot of cool different seed development, like different cool crosses and different colors. And I grow some of his seeds in my garden, and some of them do really well. But, you know, some varieties, I'll see people online saying, oh, these do really well. And as you start to look at, he's in California, so the seeds are developed in California. So it seems like people who live in California have really good luck with them, which makes sense because they were developed there, so they would be best suited to that area. Whereas here, maybe not as well. So sometimes that you'll run into that, where if you see that something, and then some varieties seem to kind of do well wherever. So a lot of it's trial and error, and that's why too I think it's nice to follow people online who, if you're, you know, into the gardening stuff, that live in a similar climate to you or maybe really close to you, because they can say, well, in our area this is what tends to do well. Or if you have just neighbors, family, friends that garden, they might be able to tell you too, like varieties that they love and that do really well for them. Big on the gardening questions tonight. Jenny99 says, my aunt gets seeds from a Canadian chain hardware store called Canadian Tire. Oh, Whitney Stowe says, hi from Oklahoma. Hello. I'm sorry, I'm still chewing. That's rude, but I also don't want to be silent. I'm glad you're able to be here, Whitney. We're just hanging out, chatting. I'm eating my dinner. I made stir fry. I was going to have it before I went to the gym, but I didn't finish it early enough to have time to eat. So I came home from the gym, took a shower, and I'm eating it now and hanging out with you. Kind of Vegan says, a few plants produce more than 1 pound a week of greens for me. That's another thing too. If you have a small space, something else you can focus on are things that are very productive in a small space. Josh says, thanks, Sarah. I'm in Philadelphia, so not exactly sure where I'd find a place, but I'm sure there's somewhere near me, and I could do a catalog too. Yeah, and I think the seed catalogs are really fun, especially when you get it and it's winter and it's super cold outside, maybe it's even snowing, and it's fun to like get a seed catalog and sit with like a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or something and just cozy up and flip through. and like see how cold it is outside and feel how cold it is, but imagine what's going to be happening when it's warmer out. I think it's fun. Something fun that's coming up this weekend. I don't know if I have any of my dietitians or future dietitians watching right now, but I am going to be going to FNCE this weekend. So FNCE is the Food, Nutrition Conference and Expo, and it is the annual conference for dietitians. It's in DC this year, and so I will be there. So I don't know if any of you are going to FNCE, but if you are, I'll be there too. So hopefully, you know, if you're around and you see me, we can say hi or chat or whatever, because I would like to meet you. Like I said, I don't know if I have any of you watching right now, but I do know that I have some dietitians and future dietitians on my channel. So if you're going to be there, I will also be there. And I'm really excited. I've been to one FNCE before. It was when I was in my dietetic internship. So I was still a student. I wasn't a dietitian yet, but it was in Philly, actually. So I've been to one. So it's nice to go again and to be a dietitian this time. Like most professional conferences, they kind of move it around the country. So they kind of work their way around. And some people travel and go to them all the time. I haven't really done that, but, you know, it's closed. So I'm definitely going to go if it's nearby. Or at least I want to try to. So I'm glad that I'm able to make it happen this year. Josh says, are you going to Instagram from there? Yes, I will try to. I have been a little, I don't want to say slacking on Instagram. I've been posting as often, but I still use it. And I will try to get some photos of things while I'm there. I may try to vlog there. I'm thinking I might. I don't know. I'm not making any promises, so don't get your heart set on anything. But it is an idea I have rolling around in my head to maybe do that. Sometimes it's hard to tell if there's going to be stuff that's interesting to see or not until you get somewhere. But we'll see what happens. And maybe if I feel like it's good, then I will vlog it. Not to be continued. To be determined. We'll find out together, because I don't know yet either. Kind of Vegan says, if you were in charge of health and human services, what policies would you enact to make the country healthier? Education, subsidies? Ooh, that's a big question. Let me take a bite to eat. And then I'll see if I can give you an answer to that. I can't think of like a specific policy, like if we did this, all of our problems would be solved. But the main barriers I guess I see to people for eating healthier is, one, our diet culture. People get the idea that dieting is what's healthy, or that you need to be really restrictive or cut out of food or whatever. So that's a barrier I see. And also, diet culture makes people actually turn away from yummy foods like fruits and vegetables, or have a negative association because they only see those in terms of being on a diet, or like, I have to eat that, I don't get to eat that. Whereas not being in the diet mentality, you just see all foods as food, and so you can get just as excited about a tomato as you can, you know, something else. I don't know. But when you're in the diet mindset, then all those delicious foods kind of become like the punishment, or the thing, oh, I just have to eat this. And also, a lot of dieting makes food tasteless, or makes people think that healthy eating means food that has no flavor or doesn't taste good. So that's a barrier I see. Another barrier is access, for sure. I mean, not everyone has access to a variety of foods at an affordable price. And then the other one, the big one, is cooking skills. A lot of people just don't have the skills to do basic cooking. they never learned it, they haven't practiced, and they also don't know how to, in addition to just not knowing how to cook, they don't know how to make food that tastes good. And so if you don't know how to cook, or you can cook but your food doesn't really taste that great, then that's going to get in the way. So those are the big barriers I see that I think we can work on those, then that can help. And luckily I'm able to do a lot of that in my work, which is really exciting. Jenny99 says, have you seen Jamie Oliver's Food Revolution? Yes, I watched that when it was on TV. I don't know. I think that was when I was still in, I know it was when I was still in school. I don't know at what point I was in school. I thought it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so I don't really remember everything that was in there. But I do remember him making some food in the cafeteria and stuff, and I think it's a good example of, a lot of people, they're just not eating food that tastes good. And so if you can just make some stuff that tastes good, and people are happier and they eat better, and it's a better situation. And like school cafeterias, that's an interesting situation. School cafeterias definitely get a lot of flack for not having good quality food. But there are a couple things. First off, there are standards that they have to go by as far as they have to have all the different components of the meal. They have to have fruits, they have to have vegetables, they have to have a protein food, they have to have some sort of starch, grain food. So it's not like they just put whatever out there. They have to fit within those guidelines to make sure they're serving a variety of options to the students. And people, will kind of hate on school lunch, but for a lot of kids, what they get in the cafeteria is much better nutritionally speaking than what they're packing from home. When you have kids who are getting a bag of chips and a bag of like some sort of like dessert cake thing, and that's their lunch, that's not nutritionally adequate for a growing child every single day, right? So school lunches are actually great. And provide necessary nutrition for a lot of people. But there are some limitations to it as well. When I was a student, one of my rotations was in a school food service. So I spent some of that time working in the central office for the school system, where they did the upper work of the big picture stuff for the food service for the school, for the cafeteria. And then I also spent some time getting up early, going in and working with the employees in the school cafeteria at one of their elementary schools and helping them prepare the food for the lunches and serve the food to the kids and all that kind of stuff. So I really got to see both parts of that and see how it all works. And one thing that I had not considered until I went there, but it was brought to my attention by the guy who was in charge of the whole food service, was a big concern for them is foodborne illness. And so in his mindset, which I don't necessarily agree with, but I do understand, he wanted everything to come out of a package. He didn't want any fresh fruits or vegetables. He didn't want everything needs to be cooked, everything needs to come out of a package, because if that's the case, then I know that it's sterile. There's going to be less chance of foodborne illness than if we have raw spinach or raw strawberries or something. And that was really a big thing for him, because he was like, if we have some sort of foodborne illness outbreak, one, we're feeding a lot of kids. We're feeding kids, and we're feeding a lot of them. So if something goes wrong and there's, spinach with salmonella on it or something, we could get a lot of kids really sick. And that's really, something for him that's important, because we don't want to make kids sick. But also, if that happens, then that shuts down this whole cafeteria. People are not going to come through this lunch line for weeks. Parents are going to say, we're not buying school lunch. We're not doing that because you're going to get sick. That food isn't safe. We're packing. And so then you have no money coming in. And that's a problem, because the way, because with public schools, you have free and reduced lunch for children who aren't in a situation where they can afford to pay for lunch. And the paying lunch people, the kids who come through and pay for lunch, are helping to bring in the money to help support for the people who can't afford lunch. So if you don't have those people who are choosing to purchase lunch and that are paying the full price, if they stop coming through the lunch line for weeks or a month or a couple months because kids got sick because of what was on the lunch line, then that means we might not be able to provide food for those kids who really need it, and that's a problem. So, you know, there's a lot more to the puzzle. And also, you got to put foods out there that kids eat. If kids come through the lunch line and they get food and then they don't eat it and they throw it in the trash, then that's not effective either. So, you know, sometimes school lunch gets all this negative attention, but it's like, well, if we put out X, Y, and Z, the kids don't eat it because they're not eating it at home. It's not familiar to them. They don't know what it is, or they don't know if they like it, or they've never had it. And we can't have kids coming through, getting food, and then not eating and going through the day hungry either. So there's a lot of other factors involved. So I think the school lunches kind of get a lot of hate, but, you know, it's not up to the school cafeteria to be the only one to be working on this. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of other pieces. Kind of Vegan says, I agree with cooking skills. Yeah, it's lacking for a lot of people. When you don't have that confidence in the kitchen, then it just makes everything harder. Whitney So says, I like your thoughts on that. I try not to diet, but instead do everything in moderation. Yeah, diets are no good for a lot of reasons. Jenna99 says, I liked how he just gave cooking lessons and didn't put anyone on a diet. Yeah, cooking, and that's one thing, like I said, with my work that I'm happy to do is help teach kids how to cook and also teach grown-ups how to cook, and also try to help make that connection. So, because if a lot of kids aren't learning now because their parents don't know. Their parents didn't learn from their parents, and now their parents, and so they can't even teach their kids. It's not even an option of like, I'm not going to, or I don't have time to, or I don't think it's a priority. It's they don't have the know-how to even teach their kids how to cook. So we're kind of dealing with a lack of knowledge all around. Kind of Vegan says, funny story about that food safety guy. I'm anti-diet too. Hashtag eat dirty. Josh says, I would respectfully disagree with everything in moderation. Things like soda, trans fat, refined sugars, best consumed on a minimal basis. Trans fat maybe never. I don't love the everything in moderation phrase either, because it's, I do and I don't. Let me get some more food and then we'll talk about that. I like it because I think it's something that people need to hear in this age of everyone telling everyone that some food is poison and killing them and they need to cut it out. But I like it for that reason. But I don't like the phrase everything in moderation because it's super vague. And so people don't really know what it means. And it's like, well, what is moderation? What does that look like? How does that work? And food is so personal. So I think intuitive eating is a better way to think about it, which even that, like, there's 10 principles to that. And intuitive eating, what does that mean? It's kind of vague. We don't really have a good, it's complicated, right? So we don't have kind of like a one-off phrase like that encompasses all of it. But I think that's something we got to figure out. There's been a lot of talk in the dietitian community about that too. Like, how do we phrase this so that people know what it is? So it's simple, but also it's not so simple that it doesn't clearly explain it. But if you get too complicated and people don't know what's going on, then they're not understanding anything. It's tricky. Got a little bit of food left here. A couple bites. Which, I think this might be enough. Maybe I'll get more. I don't know. Jenny99 says, as they said on Sesame Street, there are every time foods and sometime foods. Yeah, I've heard that phrasing used before now. I don't know if I love that either, though. I don't know. It's hard because whenever you start putting foods in the category of, like, you shouldn't eat this, then it kind of becomes the forbidden thing again. And it's like, oh, I want that because I shouldn't have it. Yeah, I think, too, it's different for kids, right, and adults, because we don't want kids to, because kids take things very literally, and so if you, like, you have to be careful with how you explain things to them, right? Because they're not grown-ups and they don't understand the nuance of things. So, if you say that XYZ is a bad food, a kid can interpret, well, if I eat that food, then I'm a bad person, which, I mean, there are no good or bad foods. But they can take that to the extreme level, be like, oh, I eat this and now I'm bad, you know? Also, if you tell a kid, well, if you don't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, then you might not get the nutrients that your body needs, and that means you could get sick more often. The kids can kind of understand that, oh, like, my body needs different things, and I got to make sure I'm giving my body things it needs. But sometimes kids can also take that, and then if they get a cold, they're like, oh no, it's because I didn't eat the right foods, or I ate the wrong foods, and that's why I'm sick, and it's all my fault. And they don't understand that everyone gets sick sometimes, because they take that, whatever they heard, and they really internalize it and take it super literally. So that's the thing with kids. You have to be careful about how you explain things to them or what kind of messages you send them, because you might think you're saying one thing, but they can take it as something else. Kind of vegans asking about how to eat to reduce your LDL cholesterol. As always with anything like this is general advice. It's not substitute for personalized medical advice from a doctor or a dietitian or some other health professional, and it is not meant to cure, treat, or diagnose any condition. So let's get that out of the way. It's just general information. But generally for reducing LDL, it's less saturated fat. That's the big thing. The cholesterol you eat doesn't really affect your blood cholesterol. It's not direct in that way. There are a percentage of the population that are known as hyper responders, and the cholesterol they eat does affect their blood cholesterol, but it's not most people. So the cholesterol you eat doesn't really matter. Trans fats are the big thing when it comes to cholesterol. But luckily, at least in the U.S., those are being phased out of the food system, and so they're supposed to be banned. I don't know because they set dates for these things, and the dates get pushed back, and things get changed, and whatever. But that's good, because they're not necessary. They have a really negative impact on our health, and they're not necessary for cooking anything. Like, anything that uses trans fats, you could just cook with some other fat. So those are the big things. And, of course, things like exercise and stress and sleep, all those things matter, too. Whitney Stowe says, true, my version of moderation is probably different than other people. For example, I eat fried foods maybe 4 times a year. To me, that's moderation. Right, yeah. So that's why people are like, I don't know what moderation means. Josh says, I heard one RD categorize foods as always, sometimes, rarely, never. Yeah, I've heard that kind of terminology used before too. I like the intuitive eating framework because it focuses on paying attention to nutrition, but not using it as the only factor when making your food decisions. So there's a lot of factors that go into what we eat and when we eat it and all that kind of thing. And also paying attention to your own preferences and also what you're kind of craving and all that kind of stuff. So that doesn't mean that some people here, they're like, oh, that means I only eat donuts all the time. It's like, well, no, actually, if you had free reign, most people who say that are someone who's currently on a diet, because in their mind, they're like, well, if I could eat donuts, I would just only eat donuts, and that's all I would eat. When really, if you have free reign to eat whatever, you might eat donuts every meal, every day for a little bit, but then eventually you're kind of going to get sick of it. You're not really going to want it anymore. Because a lot of times we have these strong cravings for food because of being on diets or living in a diet culture, when really, like, desserts are great. I love them, but I know, one, from, considering nutrition, that I can't just eat desserts. I need a variety of foods. And I also know from my personal experience that if I were to only eat desserts all the time, I'm not going to feel great. But also, I don't want desserts all the time because I know if I really want it, I can have it just like any other food. So it's not like if it's there, it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I have to eat it because it's there. If it's something I really like, I may choose to eat it. I may choose not to eat it. Maybe I don't really want it right now because I know I can have it if I want it at a different time. But when you're on a diet, those foods get like this huge appeal, and then it's like, oh, I can't resist it, and you're always thinking about it, and then you start eating it, and then you can't stop. It's like, well, now I ate it, so I might as well try to pack in as much as possible, and that kind of becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. Kind of Vegan says, I could go to the corner store for a candy bar, but I'm too lazy. Jenny99 says that they saw a documentary about a child who was 8 years old that had anorexia. Yeah, I mean, kids from a very early age, I should know these numbers off the top of my head, but a lot of kids, you know, by that age have already been on their first diet, you know. A lot of very young children say that they are concerned with their appearance or think about trying to change their appearance by what they eat. And I need to memorize those numbers, but it's alarming. Because kids at a very young age are getting that message, whether it's directly from parents or indirectly just by observing the world around them, or directly from other people in their life. Other adults, other kids at school who are getting it from somewhere. Oh, okay, I need to work. Y'all are commenting. I need to roll through these. Okay, so let's see. Andrew says, Sarah, I just checked into this live stream. Hey, Andrew, good to see you. This is my first semester as a dietetic intern at ETSU in Tennessee. Master's combined with internship. I was curious what your very first job was. Very exciting. That's awesome. My first job was actually doing this stuff. So I just, right out the gate, started my own business, seeing people one-on-one, doing the YouTube stuff. It's kind of changed over time. I thought I would be doing one-on-one clients, like most of the time, but actually what I found is that I have a lot more luck. The kinds of jobs that I have found myself getting, or things that have come to me, I guess I don't want to say luck because that makes it sound like, oh, I just got lucky. But actually I've been doing more speaking, and then I got hooked in with this nonprofit, the Dr. Yum Project, that I work with. I do a lot of work with them now, teaching classes and stuff. So I still have the one-on-one client aspect, but I also do a lot more other stuff in addition to that, which I actually really like, because I like working with people one-on-one, but I think if I was doing just that every single day, I don't think I would love it if that was the only thing I was doing. So I do a lot of the speaking and teaching classes and other things too, which I really, really like. Also, Andrew, you said you're in Tennessee. You weren't here earlier. I'm going to be at Fancy this weekend, in DC. I don't know if you're going to be there, or if maybe like your internship is taking a trip, because it's kind of close. So if you're going to be there, I will be there, and maybe we can say hi if you see me or something. That would be fun. Jenny99 talking about the child who had anorexia. I thought she'd be healthier if she goes on a diet. Josh says, great conversation tonight. True, I feel like I would eat donuts every meal if I could, but I would get sick of them. Talvish says, hello to you. Josh says, thoughts, emotions, mindset are all such a big piece. It's not being discussed enough in the nutrition community. Yeah, I saw one dietitian on Twitter. I thought this was a great way to put it. She was like, up until 10 years ago, most of my job was just trying to get people to care about nutrition at all. And then she said, and then in the past 10 years, my job has turned into telling people to stop caring so much about nutrition. We've kind of had this big swing where like people weren't thinking about it. And there are a lot of people who still aren't thinking about it at all and not taking it into consideration when they're making their food choices. But now we have so many people who are like so worried about it way too much and are doing all this wild stuff based on some person who doesn't know what they're talking about, or people who don't know what they're talking about making stuff up, or maybe taking a kernel of truth and then blowing it into this whole diet plan, so it's kind of interesting how instead of people being like, oh, this is, I guess people are trying to promote like nutrition is important just to try to nudge people a little bit, and then some people just went the other way. So now it's like, okay, calm it down, rein it back a little bit. That documentary, if anyone's interested, is called I'm a Child Anorexic. Oh, Jackie says, how long have you been a BTS fan? Okay, so let me think. I first got into BTS maybe a little less than a year ago. Me and Jason, my husband, had both kind of been dabbling in K-pop. We weren't like super into it, but we knew some of the popular songs here or there, and we listened to them in the mix with all of our other music. And a lot of times at work, he'll put on like YouTube music playlists to listen to in the background while he's doing stuff. And he was listening to a K-pop one, and the BTS mic drop video was in that playlist. And so he came home that day, he was like, Sarah, you gotta see this video, like this song is so good, I think you're gonna love it. So he showed it to me, and I was like, this is amazing. I love the music, the choreography, it just totally like pulled me in, and so it was like one of my favorite songs. I was like, this is so great, this is so good. And so it was that, and then we kind of started getting into a few of the other songs. You know, there are other videos through suggested, and kind of Jason would be at work sometimes, send me emails like, ooh, I just found this video for this song of theirs, it's really good, check it out. And I'd listen to it like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. That's kind of how it started. We got more and more into it. Then it became a thing, like if I saw something BTS related, or he would see it on trending, he'd be like, oh, they dropped a new music video, it's on the trending page, go watch. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that's kind of how it was. It's like if one of us saw something, we would let the other one know. A lot of Jason would find things because he was listening to those music playlists at work. But then, like, I don't know, this spring, so maybe like 6 months ago, is when it really became intense. So I haven't been ARMY for very long. I haven't been a BTS fan for super long. But about 6 months ago is when I went from casual fan to super fan. I think Jason was on a work trip, actually. And so I had a lot more time to myself because even though we don't, you know, for those of you who maybe live with a roommate or a spouse or someone, you know that even if you're not doing stuff together necessarily all the time, you still have to account for that other person. And like, oh, I'm gonna make dinner at this time, what are you doing? And that kind of stuff. So when he is away, I feel like I have a lot more time to do stuff. And so I just went down the BTS rabbit hole, and I came out like super into it. So that's my story. And now it is my number one interest. Oh, Andrew. Okay, changing gears, going back to the food and nutrition conference, says, you're kidding, there are 10 in my class, but only 2 are going. I decided not to go due to the price, but now I wish I would have signed up. Is it Tuesday? So it starts Saturday and it goes through Tuesday. Man, I wish you were going, but maybe we'll see each other at a Fancy in the future. I'm not sure where it is next year. I can't remember off the top of my head. I know in a couple years it's in Louisiana, I want to say, New Orleans. Whitney says, enjoy the conversation, have to put my kids to bed. Oh, thanks for joining us, Whitney. I'm glad that you were here and that you were chatting with us. Oh, Josh says, good night, all. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, it's getting late here, too, and I should hang out with Jason at least a little bit. And we need to get ready for bed and everything. But it was nice talking to all of you. Andrew says, you're like my RD YouTube celebrity, and I miss my chance to meet you. Oh, you're sweet. There will be more chances. That's the thing, because you're going to be a dietitian. There's going to be all these dietitian things that we can go to together in the future. So, you know, there will be more chances for us to say hello to each other in real life. But it's great hanging out with you guys. I hope that you are having a great morning or afternoon or evening or night, no matter where you are in the world or when you are watching this. I've really enjoyed this. I like doing these chats and hanging out with you guys. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. And all the love to all of you, and I will see you soon in my next video. Bye!